you 17 hours, and the 17 gives you 4 hours. Right, because the other one will be more frames per second, so you're going to consume more media per second than the other one.
But the 32, I mean, when I recorded it at the high, high definition, it said the system said 4 hours, 9 minutes, and it came in within a minute of that.
Right, so it's a good calculator.
It's a good calculator. The question is, we have a meeting going over 4 hours, and,
Right.
Just that 2 cents.
or just set it for the lower speed.
Right. Like how much lower was the quality? Because could you? Oh, okay. Well, then let's just do it that way.
Well, I was going to do it tonight on that, just to really
Oh,
get
just
the
to test it.
out.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And they both will.
What?
Just like you are.
Here's the camera. You go ahead and you know how to latch it onto the thing.
I can figure it out.
It's a little tricky. And lift the thing up,
Yeah.
and then it's got an extension cord here. Only run like 15 minutes. All right. Now, this worked like this.
We want them to do that, though, don't we?
Well, yes, right now, because of the county square footage, so you don't have to see put it in these places, they jacked it up in the air. They don't count the basement as square footage towards that.
So wait, no, okay. We'll talk about it later because I'm not getting your drift. I mean, I do kind of now.
Yeah. Yeah, we got 1,000 foot maximum.
This is really odd. I know. That wasn't that way last week.
What did you do? I'll have to go out to the truck and get a battery out of mine.
Oh, you
Yeah.
move this way over. Here's your keystone.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, you can make it look any way you want.
Apparently.
Okay. What I'm showing you is just you sign on.
Okay, Bruce, you can fix that.
And it says claimable for three accounts.
Yep.
And just do Control Alt Delete, and they'll show you the.
Yep.
So there's your desktop. And all that other crap's gone.
Oh, cool.
And then it says Internet Explorer.
Yep. So that desktop was probably always there. I just didn't know what the heck it was.
And it's already bookmarked for the land use ordinance, and it comes right up.
Oh,
Okay.
all right.
So I need to go get a. You may have a double A battery. Double A. Oh wait, that makes it.
Does this take a single double A? Is that all it takes?
I thought I do one in here. Thought it did.
Wow, it just takes one double A.
Is it tight in there? Oh, it didn't last very long.
Well, it's not a brand name, it's just a simplistic. I mean, I could probably get by it.
I thought got a flashlight out in the truck.
That's all right, I can navigate, I'll figure it out.
We're just.
If it gets to be super annoying, I'll let you know.
Camera, I don't know how, right here.
I'm still learning my way with this puppy. Everybody hold your gut in. we have 17 hours and 17 minutes. That should be enough for tonight. Okay, we're in business. So just for,
It was going to saw and see what happened. 17 hours.
Updates purposes, just, I have them separated out into clean copies. This is under the 2014 drafts area. One says clean copies, and one says markup copies. So like if you went to Article 1, a clean copy, that's what it looks like. And there's still, just to be crystal clear here, on these clean copies, the references are not checked on any documents. Okay, so we're not good to go on references. All right.
we're not going to use this manual.
So then you come back over to here and you look at the same one for markup. And you'll see that what I've done is all the ones that said format, I got rid of those, and all the ones that were like just changing like A to 1.3 or whatever, I got rid of all those. So all that's left there is just the deletes, page 60 deletes, and then anything we added is underlined. And you can see clearly, obviously I put the blues and I did the ones that adds because you only have to do the ones on the right side. And then the comments are still in there on these markups with stuff that we probably should take a peek at some point. We're going to roughly justify what we did or attempt to or whatever. So that's what's going on with those. So tonight, what I thought we'd start with, we want to look at let's look at the markup copy. Number 12, we talked quite a bit about 12. Now we're happy to take some notes here. Let me try to make it a little bigger too. Okay.
Eric, can you make them a little bit bigger? Okay, right. I can see
Wait,
it.
I can't read either. Comes with age, I think. So, remember we changed the factor sizes? Or the factor numbers, so that's all been accomplished here. So somebody made the comment last time, about just this regular noise generated thing. Or here, Bruce, did you have any thoughts on this, like why, if because don't forget now, no, I don't want to do that. Remind me later. I'm not thinking that we want to kick it into, if you have everything else being the same, or whatever. I don't know if that's reasonable or not, Bruce.
I haven't spent a lot of time looking at this one.
That's like a car starting. You might hear, or if somebody starts their Harley. That's the probably like if you start like a lot of the more modern cars, that's probably okay. But
That ain't that no Harley, that's for sure.
well, you'll hear at 500 feet, you probably hear the Harley start.
Oh, yes. There's
Hear those diesel trucks.
I was going to say, my truck at 500 feet, you could hear it.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that that's reasonable. So anyway, maybe we should look at some of the more urban standards to see if what it says to kick it up into the tiers.
I put that at 85 all the way across.
You do need to add an A after every one of those.
Okay, you're right. That's definitely something for sure.
So I have a very special instrumentation everything either is DBA or DBC or anything common. For measurement.
This is Article 12.
Because 85 decibels ain't that heavy, ain't that high.
Right, so, I mean, it seems like it should be like continuous noise. And that's like spike noise, the way it's written now. I'll look at 85 decibels, I'll do some research.
So we're trying to pay for that, but at the shop,
Well, like I said, 85, in terms of occupational noise, the OSHA standard's 90 and the Air Force standard's 85. It's more conservative than the OSHA standard. All right, we passed, I think we've gotten through all that stuff. This was like the question where we started to have to think about stuff before. Remember you guys said, well, what exactly is a structure and things like that? Or what were the setbacks for? Before it just had like setback, front setback, and it wasn't really clear what it meant. So what I thought would be good to add in there is, you know, we talk about different things. We talk about signs, parking and driving services, and accessory structures and primary structures. So what I thought it would be good to do is to just identify, you know, these major things. I mean, you think of other, I mean, these are very general groups. I mean, when I think that they cover most general groups, I mean, a driving, parking, or display surface, I mean, that kind of covers a lot of territory. So just without looking at these yet, just this part here, is this reasonable for things to be thinking about for setbacks?
I like it.
100 feet's a long ways.
Well, I know we haven't got there yet.
That's just for the primary structure.
Well, no,
Maybe
hang
for like
on.
your house.
Well, this is for the businesses. This is all commercial.
It's all commercial.
Okay, this is non-residential uses. Okay, so now, all right, so now we can look over here at this other stuff now. Okay, now, to me, I did a little research. I mean, the front setbacks, it varies all over the place. It could be for commercial sites. It could be easily, you know, anywhere from 20 feet to 100 feet are all common front setbacks. You know, I don't know if we want to, for a business this size, need to be back 100 feet for the building or not. I mean, does seem like quite a bit. And then the other thing is, when you're looking around at different ordinances, a lot of ordinances call from the center line of the road. The only thing I think about when you look at the center line of the road is if sometimes people end up putting their signs, and you're a contractor, you've probably seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really know where the roadside property line is until DOT comes along and wants to make a
No, it's way back there.
right, okay, and there's signs out in the darn right away. And the next thing you know, everything's been built off that sign, etc. And you know, whether it's gas pumps and stuff, then you've got an issue. So I kind of think people should get their road right of way certified. And the reason I put in 5 feet for that sign setback from the front property line is because my thought process was that gives people 5 feet to put up a ladder and do stuff on, and if they know where the line is, they come in 5 feet from that, they're fairly safe. That was my thought. That was what I was basing it off of. So I'm thinking, you know, even though you can find it out there for center lines and for sidelines, I'm leaning towards sidelines unless you guys have other opinions.
No, I think that's good, because you also have places where the road has been constructed, where the sidelines, the center of the road is not what you would look at the road and say is the center of the road.
Right. the right of way. Right, exactly.
Because in my property, the right of way ends almost right at the edge of the pavement.
Right, but and the other side has a bunch of green space on it, right?
I'm sure it does.
Right, yeah, I think you're
Because
right.
when they added, I can show you the survey.
Yeah, I've done a bunch, I'm formerly a regular land surveyor, I've seen that all the time, so that's kind of why I'm leaning towards the property line. Now, the next thing is 100 feet. I mean, this is for like throughout the entire area now, because this doesn't even break it down. And this is requirements for tier 2 uses, which is fairly low. You know, this isn't even a big, you know, keeping in mind tier 2 type stuff. I don't have it right here handy, but it's light impact type stuff. You're talking a 5,000 square foot building at the most. You know, does a 5,000 square foot building need to be 100 feet off the road up the right of way?
Probably make it somewhat similar to our residence. I mean,
That's what I'm thinking.
I wouldn't have a problem.
I was thinking 50 feet, because that gives you some parking out front.
It does give you a little parking out front, but maybe they like the parking in the back, you know, I don't know.
Well, this is the minimum. It doesn't mean somebody has to put it there.
Nothing about roads.
Say that again?
This is the minimum distance they have to go back. They
They
can go back as far as they want, depending on the type of business.
Well, that's correct, but if we make it 100 feet back, then they have to go 100 feet back.
Right, exactly.
Right, so I'm thinking 50 feet for something in this, you
Yeah,
know, light duty range is probably a little better.
that works.
So, 12C should be front. Equals 50 feet.
I wouldn't go any lower on the local roads or private ways or.
Yeah, keep it all at 50 feet. Now,
You're going 50 all the way across?
I go 50 all the way across.
for everything, right?
Yeah.
For the local roads and for Route 9 and 180?
Yep,
Okay.
50 all the way across.
So now this is the next question, okay, for the side and rear setbacks. Because like you could, I think our minimum road frontage here is, okay, well, for these, we're saying you've got to have 250 feet. So if you've got, and 200 feet on these other smaller lots. So if you take 35 feet on each side, okay, that's 70 feet. So now you only have 130 feet that you can wiggle your building in. That's not very much for a 5,000 square foot building.
Not at all.
So to me, I looked around and there's quite a few of them that go, you know, as narrow as 15 feet off the property line. Hang on, but then there's another way that you can look at it. You could do it as a percentage of the lot width. So with a you don't have to be bigger than. So for example, if you said the lot width, for example, for these, you could say like 5% of the lot width or 10% of the lot width would be the side setbacks. You know, you could get a little bit more room out of them. If it's like 10%, you know, but you can't, it doesn't have to be more than 25 feet, for example. So on a 200-foot wide lot, instead of 130 feet, you have 160 feet because you have, you know, 10% if you use 10%. 10% of 200, that's 20 feet on one side, 20 feet on the other side. Subtract that from 200, you get 160. So you get 40 more feet, you know, on a 200-foot wide lot. And it seems like, you know, for a 200-foot wide lot, you know, that would be fine. But you wouldn't ever, but if the lot was like 500 feet wide, you know, I mean, who knows the lay of the land or whatever, you know, it might be more beneficial to stick to one side of the lot. So if you said 10% of the lot width, but say not more than 35 feet or something like that, then you kind of average it out a little better.
I wouldn't go any less than 20 feet. Because 20 feet gives you access, you know, enough ample room to get a fire truck or whatnot down through there.
If you need to. Well, since we have a minimum lot width of 200 feet,
Yeah.
and if you said 10%, you would never be less than 20 feet. But then what would the max be? Or would you just always say 20 feet,
I'd say 20 feet,
no matter what?
no
I
matter
think
what.
so, rather than trying to mess with the percentage.
Don't worry,
I
right
think I
there.
would go with fixed numbers as well. The other thing is, you could think about doing the same thing for the side and rear that you did for the front, and having two different standards for paved areas versus primary buildings.
I guess I was only really worried about Oh, I see, oh, all right, because we're still vague, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
I like what you did.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. So maybe we should have, do you wanna have all four of those standards?
What do others think? I can't see any need for signs on the sides or back of the lot normally.
Well, it could be like, warning signs of some sort maybe,
Whatever, who
or,
knows?
could be not advertising,
Yeah.
If I did it that way, then, I mean, I could probably restructure the table a little bit so that these columns, because I have, you can see I've got plenty of space in there. So what I could do is I could break it into like three, or, front, or even just two, then front and then side and rear. You know what I mean? So that
Oh, yeah, all you have to do is expand those ones out at the bottom, the
Right.
side and rear.
right, but I could do it here, because if I have to add 4 rows here, it's just gonna make the tables even longer. See what I'm saying? So if I just split it down the middle and put down front and then side and rear and then have the same rows, it'll be better.
That's how it's done, I don't care, but I do like the setup. At least I do.
Okay, so, all right.
And it does address that ambiguity about what you can put in, because most businesses will have some paved areas that are closer to where we want the buildings.
Right.
And depending on the particular lot and topography and the soil types, they may need to squeeze stuff on one side or the other.
This may be a divergent, but something like a propane tank. Does that factor into this at all, or placement of that? I know there's
That'd be an accessory structure.
It would be an accessory structure.
Okay.
So yeah, that's another good point.
I know there's, it'd be so far from a flame source and all that, just as far as this goes.
So you want the sign, etc.
Since they usually, well, depending on the size of propane tank, if it's one of those big ones, they're usually placed on some sort of concrete pad now. Not
So-
always, but usually.
So on the side setbacks, like, it would be like what? I mean, 5 feet probably, we don't want anybody getting any closer to the property line than 5 feet, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So. Side setback 5 feet. Okay, so then what about driving, parking, and display surfaces?
20. I think we were better off having a little more space on the sides.
Okay, but if you have 20 feet for the edge of that, now let's just do a calculation. So you have the property line, you go in 20 feet, and then there's your pavement. Your paved surface is going to be, say 8 feet wide, and then there's going to be a little bit of a buffer, and now you're down to, not very much room on a 200 foot wide lot.
No, I don't care if you pay right up to the line. Maybe a 5-foot buffer on the lines, but the structure can't be any more than 20 feet from me.
Yeah, I mean, what happened
I'm kind of, I kind of agree with Gerald.
Don't you want at least some buffer for runoff, because those rules say you can't have any runoff?
Well, that's up to the engineer to figure out how they're going to do it. Maybe they want to have porous pavement, or they have to do a ditch. I mean, that's up to them. This isn't telling them where they have to do it. This is telling them the minimums. And maybe, I don't know what the lay of the land is. I mean, maybe it is sloped back or sloped forward. I mean, that's up to somebody else to figure out.
I happen to think there should be at least some distance from the sideline.
To the first pavement.
Yeah, rather than paving. If this was in the city, I could see letting them pave right to the line.
Well, that's why I said a 5-foot buffer.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with that with paving.
Well, the other thing that I consider though is in winter and snow removal and things like that.
That's true,
you'd be
too.
Pushing snow onto somebody else's property,
In theory.
at least in theory, you may get a little tick about that, depending on.
So maybe we should make the edge of pavement, maybe we should make them go in 10 feet, give them 10 feet of place to push snow. I mean, the snow removal is an issue. I don't want to create a problem for that. If we made the building, if we stuck with the building 20 feet, don't forget now, we go in 10 feet, and the thing is 8 or 10 feet wide, you're still at 20 feet for the building. And they don't necessarily have to have one, so we can keep the 20 for the building. But we just say 10 feet for the pavement.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's a good compromise. I think the snow thing is an issue.
It was a big issue where I came from.
Yeah.
It's a big issue in town and a lot of
Yeah.
places here.
Out here, I think it might not be.
Well, usually it's easy enough out here to have enough space to have some place to get rid of it. I know if I ever saw a plan come before us for something and I didn't see any provision for that made in it, I'd say, what are you planning to do in the wintertime before we approve this?
that's a big thing right there.
How about if we make the accessory and the primary structures both 20 feet? They don't necessarily have to have an accessory structure.
It's okay by me for something of this size. I'm not sure if everybody's.
So with a lot of 3 acres, it should have sufficient
Space
to have that,
for all that.
the building and.
Building perspective, it's 20 feet.
That's good.
Plus you got, it's 20 and 20, they could take both sides.
But again, that's a minimum. Most people that are actually building, if they can site things a little more centrally to give them more space around it, they probably will.
Yeah, but you
If
could
the
go to
person
make-
wanted to do different though, could they come in front of the board and try, and is it subject to change?
Say that again?
Say we're gonna build something in the middle of town, and we wanted to try to change that lot around a little bit. Is it something that they could come in front of the board and ask for?
Well, there could be, a possibility of that, but this is for a site plan, if somebody's gonna put up like a small business on a small lot. I don't see this normally being an issue. The only time I see this being an issue is if somebody comes in, and it would be kind of on this end of town,
Yep.
and they wanted to put in, like, even right across from Scott Point Road. If somebody wanted to subdivide that up into, say, 2 or 3 lots,
Yep.
all right, where you have because it's kind of a commercially zoned area, that would be where you'd want to make sure that everybody had their space, so that after the fact, it wasn't an issue. But if somebody came in on one of these existing lots, any other place in town, out on 180 or whatever, this is going to be a non-issue. Because it'll be plenty of room. So this is kind of really geared towards if somebody comes in and puts in subdivision lots.
The other thing about that is, if they want to get a change from these dimensions,
Yeah.
they have to go to the appeals board. We cannot issue a waiver for that. That can only be done by the appeals
By the
board.
appeals.
And there are very strict conditions for the appeals board to do that. They have to prove basically, what's it called, hardship, and there's some strict
there's like some
rules
standards
on
for
it. It's not simple.
Because these are like standards that you have to meet, okay, as opposed to a submission requirement, which is a different game. So, and then the heights, again, these are like the small, low-end projects, so 35 feet, we're so good with that for these small projects.
Same as for residential.
Right. So then,
Back it up just for a second here. Onto wood lots. Do you still want to leave that at 200 foot, or do you want to leave that, put that down to 200 feet?
you talking this road?
Yeah,
Well, I don't really have a strong feeling about it. I mean, I think,
because right now in town, you gotta have a minimum of 200 foot.
right,
If this is a pre-existing lot, then it's only gonna be able to get a 200 foot.
well, right, but this is for making a new lot.
Just for citing anything on whether it's a new lot or existing lot.
Well, that's true.
An existing lot's only 200.
Well, we could always grandfather existing lots on 180 that are less than 200 lots in existence as of whatever that.
On 180, this lot's pretty big, I thought.
Yeah, but his point is, and even on Route 9, we've had a 200-foot distance for like, a long time. I forget how long, but forever basically.
Yeah, if you look at most of the lots that have been built, that have been cut up for quite a long time now, they're 200 feet wide.
Really?
Yeah.
180?
Yeah, even on 180, you look at the subdivision on the top of the hill, just up beyond you. I think every one of them just about is 200 foot wide.
201, 202.
Right, so I guess what Gerald's point is, if somebody comes in for a project, you know, on one of these roads and their land isn't 250 feet wide, and it's for a tier 2 project, which is, you know, exactly what we want people to do, you know, we don't want to preclude them from doing it because they have a lot that was created in, you know, 2002 or whatever. So we could just indicate in there lots created before whatever the date was of this first project, before this went into effect, which was like in 2010 or whatever it was.
Well, actually, I'd be comfortable with tier 2 with putting that down to 200, but that's.
So we just maybe.
But
we should-
again, you're talking only on Route 9 and 180.
Right. They're high-speed roads, so I think that was why I was trying to make them wider lots. Because now what will happen if we don't have it 250 feet? Somebody could come in and make more 200-foot wide lots.
Does road condition make any difference here? Because Route 9's in great shape, 180 is not in very good shape.
180.
When you get it used to be that towns gave entry permits on the roads, but now the DOT has to do that. So you gotta get your permit from DOT. So I guess it would be, you know, on the onus of the owner, and what we would actually do if it was a subdivision, you know, maybe we'd probably do it on this too, is we'd have them show their DOT permit that they could get on there. Because I can't think of the situation off the top of my head, but say if there was a lot that was on a hill and on a curve, you know, coming out on the 180, they'd have to get a DOT permit for that entry.
Right there by right over past J. Paris.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's a great spot to think of. That's a nasty spot.
Yes. And they did go through DOT and get permits.
Right.
Well, there's some kind of a permitting thing on 180 now, some kind of an orange
Oh,
sign.
what that is that's telling you can't take heavy trucks. The trucks are way over a certain weight. They're heavy load limited. It's a seasonal thing because of the weather. It'll go away by June or so.
Frost in the roads.
Yeah. Yeah, loggers are not happy at the moment.
Anything that's got a truck.
So do you want to make a clause or you want to make it go 200 feet? You make it go 200 feet, you're going to get more 200-foot lots for businesses.
Make the quality.
What? So Bruce is ambivalent. While he's thinking, Joe, what do you think? 200 feet or? make it
Yeah,
clause?
lots. Make a note on there. Lots that were before 2000.
Whatever it was, when this thing.
Yeah, 2011 or 2010.
What do you think, Dave?
I certainly, in fairness, grandfathered, you know, the existing.
Pre-existing lots of.
Can you live with that, Bruce, without?
It's not that big a deal. I just think what's going to happen if somebody applies to build something on the existing lot, it's going to be in gray area.
That's why I
You
look
know, you're going to make the clause that they're a pre-existing lot. It's done all the time. If you look at most ordinances in the United States, they talk about this.
Well, yes, but they might have bought the house, you know, the house lot originally. They
Right.
didn't want to
I don't want to put a little business in it. And we've heard that.
See, because on local and private roads, we can issue a, we can do the driveway. But on the state roads, we can't.
Yeah, I'm not positive how that works.
The reality is, anybody that's splitting up any property as a rule to get the maximum number of lots and get the maximum income they can, will look at whatever is the minimum lot rate. They won't be worried about selling it to a business. Anybody that splits up a piece of property will be doing 200-foot wide pieces.
Because I've got a covenant in mind saying I can't put a business on my lot.
Okay, these are 5 to 10,000. We're gonna get going. We have 5 to 10,000 square feet lots now. Okay, on this next level. All right, in 12D, and up to 25 employees. So, some more discussions. And I didn't know what you guys were gonna say about it. I mean, for somewhere on 12D. So we can keep the same dimensions we just talked about. You know, I mean, what we did the first time through, we just kept, just kind of give you the preview here. All we did is is here, they were 100 feet, and then we went to, 200 feet, and then we went to 500 feet, et cetera. I mean, it's kind of like that.
Now we're in tier 3, so they're gonna be pretty good size. I mean, they're gonna need some clearance.
Right, but that's what we did before. I'm not saying it was a good idea. I think it was just bigger and bigger and
We
bigger.
haven't had to test it. We haven't had any problems.
So for these tier 3 lots, do we want to go with the same lots, the same sizes? These are 25 employees, up to 10,000 square feet.
Talk about for your new categories,
Well, the same categories, I think we'll just use them, but the setbacks.
use the same dimensions you had in the other one.
We have 5, 15, 35, and we were gonna make it 50.
Yeah.
Do we want
Go
I
crazy.
to, and these are the more rural areas, this is the more compact area.
I'd still go 50 right across the board on that.
10,000 square foot building, 25 employees.
Yeah.
What do you think, Bruce?
I can go with it either way. The big one I wanted to see change on these tier 3 ones is the side setbacks on the rear as much as anything else.
Well, yeah, I agree with that too.
Did you take a look at what happens to your acreage if you actually?
Oh, I know, it
squeeze
turns
them?
into like almost nothing.
Yeah.
So, Vern,
75 feet. I don't know, 50 seems, for that size and that many people, seems a little close.
it does seem a little close.
Yeah, right.
Do you think it would be good to have a little more room?
I mean,
That bias I have, yeah.
I would go with a little more room.
So, maybe we can give them we can go compromise 75 feet there, Buckaroo. Okay,
all the way across.
yeah.
Thing is, I think 100-foot setback is,
Okay,
Well, if you put when you get into a building that size, you're gonna have a larger parking area in the front. So you can figure what's their normal parking space depth wise.
like 20 feet.
Okay, so you got 20 feet. They're not gonna want to normally put it right to the building. Sometimes they do, but usually there'll be at least a small buffer. Usually when you're packing that many people in a place, you'll have a parking lot that has a
Could be
road
30
down the
feet down
center,
there,
and
but,
you'll have one each side.
Right.
So now you're looking at 40, 60, you're gonna get back there
70 feet.
In a hurry.
in a hurry.
but a lot of places now want everybody to park in the back.
I'm thinking for customers. Yes, you're right, a lot of them, if, for employees.
So, yeah, I'll compromise at 75.
Okay, we'll make it the same all the way for these guys too. Now these side and rear setbacks, they do seem excessive. I mean, I definitely think probably we can go back over and do it, what we had talked about, in terms of, these, breaking them out. But do we wanna make these are larger lots, these lots here are 3, 3, and 5. I guess they're 3, 4, and 5 here. 35% lot coverage, that's something else to look at. 25% lot coverage. So we can't really even cover that much.
Again, what you've done is, if a lot doesn't have isn't buildable all over it, by cutting down those sidings, you allow people to adjust to a lot. It's not ideal. And in Clifton, a lot of lots are not ideal.
Okay. You also want to take the signs out of this. Right here, so you put a sign closer to the road. Because right now, you can't put a sign right here and do this.
Well, no, I just didn't put the numbers in. I'm gonna do this here.
Okay,
I just didn't put them in.
all right.
Because I didn't know if you wanted to keep the same numbers or not. This was just like, this is like the bouncing ball, and do you want to keep using the same bouncing ball? And I wasn't gonna just do them all.
I just want to clarify that.
So where are we, on the side, side and rear, how much you want, is that where we're going, is that what we're doing?
Right, so do you want to use the same numbers except for as we used before, or do you want to have more room on the sides?
What did you come down to on the sides up there?
50.
All
No,
We decided to be
20.
5, 10, 20.
right, right.
I don't have a problem with 5 and 10, but I think for the primary structure, when you start getting into something that size, it should be a little further off.
So maybe like 30-ish.
What do you think? You've got experience in this too.
Much more urbanized area.
I'd say probably, what, 50 on that? You can make some parking on the sides too.
Are we talking around that side and rear setback, or primary structure, which one are we talking about?
Well, for the, because Bruce is saying that 5 feet for a sign, 10 feet for a pavement, sounds pretty good, but he's not that comfortable with your structures being 20 feet off the sidelines, so he'd like to see him something different. So the questions are, do you want to be more like, 30 or 40 feet, or do you want to keep it at 60 feet?
Thirty, 40, good one.
Yeah, I'd be comfortable with anything in that range.
Okay, so 35?
Sounds good.
10, and 35 feet. Side and rear. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and, because these could be like even like little apartments or whatever, these are a little bit bigger buildings, 65 foot tall for occupied structures.
Yeah, and that's another reason for moving them back away from the sides a little more than the 20 that we had before.
Well, that's true, because actually at 65 feet, let's just say that something bad happens, actually now that I'm thinking about it, let's say that it is 65 feet and there's an issue, like it burns down, the whole 65 feet could theoretically, if it burned on one side, could fall onto the adjoining property.
That's their liability issue.
What's the height the fire department can handle?
I think 65, was the max that they can deal with in Addington. I'm not 100% on that off the top of my head.
And on a structural fire like that, first thing they do is roll 305 out of brewer. That's got a 100-foot area.
Yeah.
The first thing they do, automatic. I know,
Something
first
like-
thing.
Right. But,
But the reality is, unless they've got a paved area down the side, they're not getting that fire truck near it on that side anyway.
Well, the Scott Point Road would be hard.
well, there's nothing, they won't be able to go 65 feet down Scott Point Road anyway.
I don't think you've got any parcel on the Scott Point Road to worry about this.
No. Well, that was the other question I was gonna actually bring up here. I mean, I don't really have a problem with these tier 2 projects, giving them a little bit of wiggle room if their lot size isn't big enough. But once you start to get up into this next level, I'm not sure that we need to grandfather lots to have these larger businesses.
No.
So if they're not 300 feet wide, or 400 feet wide for these other, type of things out here, I don't see that we need to accommodate them. Because this is starting to be real money businesses, and tier 2 are still pretty mom and pop-ish.
Yeah, I agree.
So. And now we're starting to get into a little bit more high density here. We're letting them, have fill the lots 50%. We were looking for a little larger lot size, you know, so for the tier 3 moderates, what do we want to do?
I think the primary structures, you should be looking at 100 feet back.
Yeah,
Again, that's a minimum. If they need a lot of parking at the front for bigger business, they're gonna wanna move it back themselves anyway, for customers. Like you said, if it's employees, they're probably gonna put it in the back.
yeah.
Right. So do we still want to have, I mean, I think signs at 5 feet off the right of way is reasonable.
Yeah.
Pavement and, you know, any of those paved surfaces or display areas 10 feet off.
Yeah.
But we're gonna go with the actual buildings. Well, what about accessory structures? Like, what if they wanted to put up, like, what if it was like a hardware greenhouse type of thing, where they might want to have like a little building up by the road, or I don't,
I have to go 50 feet.
50 feet for their accessories?
Yeah, so we're right there, you got parking around him, because if you're gonna have that, then you're gonna wanna sell some products out of it.
Yeah, and our chances of having a project that uses these is pretty scarce.
I know, so it's too bad, because actually it would be nice to have like 1 or 2 little businesses like that out here
Yes,
with
it
employ
would.
some people,
Be nice to have a couple of $1 billion.
buildings. Just 2 of them would be nice. And then we get into, this would be like if something came out that was a little bit larger,